Hello and welcome to Weird Around Illinois. Today we are going to talk about just how fast some cryptids really are. Let's get weird. First of all, it's nice to be all together in the same room again. This is the first time in several weeks we've been able to pull this off.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about speed. And, when we talk about speed for cryptids, there's so many different things that it means. I mean, first thing that comes to mind for me is always ground speed. How fast can they run or walk or slither or whatever they do on the ground.
Yeah.
But not all cryptids are ground cryptids. I mean, some cryptids can fly, so you got to look at airspeed. Some cryptids can swim, so you got to look at water speed. And then there's just that general quickness, that kind of twitchiness where they just seem to pop up out of nowhere. How fast can they throw a rock at you when you're trying to run away?
Yeah, I guess how swift they are.
Yeah. And then, of course, the other thing we could talk about is just the unnatural speed. Whether it's the ability to teleport or use a portal or just magically be in two places at the same time, it seems sometimes. Some cryptids are supposedly capable of doing that. So maybe the best way to look at it is to just kind of go cryptid by cryptid because they're so vastly different.
Yeah. So the first one I want to talk about is Bigfoot. Honestly, I'm not even sure what the ground speed of Bigfoot is. I think I've heard that it can go somewhat fast.
Yeah, I've heard that too. And just looking at him, you'd think he takes really, really long strides, and that gives people at least the illusion of speed because he can get across the road in like 3 bounds, 3 steps.
Yeah, so I guess you could say he's not exactly quick on his feet, but he has like a very, very long strides, like you said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know, have you guys ever heard any stories about Bigfoot like flat out running beside a car or anything like that where we get a better gauge of his speeds?
Not exactly.
I haven't heard of that, no.
Yeah, I haven't either.
The closest scenario I've ever heard to someone identifying how fast a Bigfoot can go was footprints. Sometimes they're so wide apart you could just predict if they're just walking alone, they've got to be going way faster than a human can.
Right. Yeah, that long stride eats up a lot of ground. So even if they move just as fast as humans do, by definition, they're going to cover more ground faster than we do because of their size.
Yeah, exactly.
So, ground speed, I guess I'd estimate it then slightly faster than a human. I have heard about humans being able to run away from Bigfoot before, but I think that has more to do with the fact that Bigfoot didn't really want them. He just wanted to chase them out.
Yeah.
In terms of quickness, I think Bigfoot's got to be fairly quick just because of the way he appears and disappears.
Yeah. It's almost like he disappears behind the trees sometimes.
Right.
Can't see him at times.
Yeah, he's good at swiftly moving around the trees and hiding.
Yeah, so maybe in short distances, he's capable of these bursts of quickness that are almost superhuman.
Yeah. And
then, you have to bring up with Bigfoot the possibility of water speed. Because there are a lot of people who claim to have seen Bigfoot in the water. I mean, the big muddy monster in southern Illinois, a lot of people think is a Bigfoot that spent some time in the water.
I think in Mountain Monsters, there were like a few times where they thought they saw a Bigfoot like on water or something, right?
Yeah, and Bryce was trying to track one in a lake on Expedition Bigfoot.
Oh, yeah.
Again, I would probably put him as... And, I've never seen a Bigfoot in the water, and, they've never shown us a Bigfoot in the water in any of these shows, but if I had to estimate, I'd say they're probably slightly faster than a human, because they would swim in much the same way, but they've got bigger hands and longer arms and longer legs, so, they should be able to generate more power and more resistance in the water.
Yeah.
Which leads me to question, if we ever find a Bigfoot, can we put him in the Olympics? If so, would he be playing for the U.S. or Canada?
I don't know.
So, beyond Bigfoot, I guess our next most popular cryptid would probably be Dogman, right?
Yeah, as far as ground speed goes, I've heard this cryptid can go really fast, like 60 to 70 miles per hour. And this is like what you're talking about, it can like run alongside a car sometimes.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that. I've heard speeds... The credible speeds in the 40s and 50s, but there are some people who claim that they've gone even higher, like you said, into the 60s and 70s.
Yeah. If you just assume that Dogman is sort of a canine and can for sure run on all fours, I mean, you could just assume how fast that would be.
Yeah. I think a canine can run, I think it tops out at 40, I want to say. Like 35 or 40 miles an hour.
I'm in the fear, that's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, not our canine. That's a whole different story. But, yeah, like a normal dog. A big, powerful dog. He can crank it up.
Another thing I want to add is it seems like when dogmen are like on all fours, that's when they go their fastest.
Yeah.
So when they're on 2 feet, they can still go really fast, but I've heard they just are faster on 4 legs.
I've heard that too, but I'm glad that you specified that they're still fast on 2 legs because, some of those stories, and I want to say this is from, These Woods Are Haunted is where I'm thinking of, but there have been cases where there's been a dogman running alongside a car on 2 legs and like trying to rip the door open with his hand while he's running. But I don't think that was full speed. I think that was the car was just getting up to speed, so we're talking 25, 30, 35 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Still faster than a human can run, but not nearly as fast as a 4-legged animal.
Yeah.
And again, I think Dogman's got that quickness. I mean, that ability to just kind of pop in and pop out and hide behind things and just basically jump scare you from wherever he's at.
Yeah, that seems to be like what he's really good at, just scaring people.
Mm-hmm.
More so than attacking people, from what I've heard.
Yeah. Now, just having come back from Michigan and experienced some kind of high tree weirdness ourselves, and having heard the stories of the tree hopping dogman from Michigan, we have to also consider the idea that dogman could be moving from tree to tree, almost like a monkey, just hopping from tree to tree.
Yeah, I'm sure it's not as fast or effective, but yeah, it's that would catch somebody by surprise, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking if the dogman did that really quickly, we'd probably hear it a lot more.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So I'm not sure how they do that without people hearing it, to be honest.
Yeah. I'm not sure either. Although, a couple people claim they did hear it. They heard it and saw it and everything else. And then, there's always that magical element to Dogman. We always talk about portals with Dogman. And if you want to consider that part of his speed, I mean, he could theoretically travel whatever the distance is between 2 portals instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to a couple of some lesser known, some lesser talked about cryptids that we've covered before.
Yeah, I'd like to start with Goatman. It has very similar cases to Dogman when it comes to running next to cars. Except usually, according to, I guess, the Holy Hill legends, in Wisconsin, the Goatman likes to run next to cars and like try and drive them off, direct them towards a bridge for some reason. A lot more dark stuff from what I've heard.
Now that road that Goatman often appeared on, I'm sorry, I can't remember the road. We're gonna have to go back to go back to our Holy Hill podcast to find it. But I seem to recall the speed limit there was like 45. So you figure most cars were probably going 45 or 50 down that road. So if Goatman was keeping up with them, then he's running at 45 or 50 miles an hour.
Yeah. And that could always be more.
It could be. I mean, I think we theorized at the time that there were a lot of drunks on that road at night based on the number of pubs that we saw around there. So, drunk drivers could be going 10 miles under the speed limit or 20 miles over. You never know.
Yeah. And I can imagine they must be quick because they seem to, from what I've heard, they seem to pop up out of nowhere sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a magical kind of thing or if it's just a really stealthy kind of move. Hiding in the forest and jumping out.
That road that they're appearing on has like a huge drop off on both sides. So he could just be hiding on the side of the road and leap up and pop up that way.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. They're probably like really fast at either jumping or something, just popping up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Some other ones that we should mention, because we got to cover as many cryptids as possible. Slender Man and the Rake. Now, the reason why I put those both together is because they're internet cryptids. But how fast do they really go? Do they travel by walking, by running, or teleporting? From what I've heard, according to the internet legends of Slender Man specifically, he more or less teleports, which is more powerful and more fast than any kind of like running or flying.
Right.
Then the Rake usually goes by all fours. If you look at images of that creature, it's always on all fours. I don't know how fast that actually goes statistically, but
Well, those are two cryptids that I consider to be kind of jump scare cryptids.
yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard stories about either of them like chasing somebody down or anything. So I don't
No.
I don't know, how fast they would actually run or move or scurry or teleport or anything else. I think they just kind of appear.
Yeah, that's what I think of when I think of the rake, that they just randomly appear, because we've heard of like reports of the rake just popping up in people's houses and like jump scaring them.
Mm-hmm.
Skinwalker, the scary part about Skinwalker is that they can turn into just about anything they want.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what they need to do, they could turn into a Dogman maybe, or some kind of canine, and go really fast.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And on Skinwalker Ranch, assuming the creature that they've heard reports of there is an actual skinwalker, they talk about it moving even faster than the canine that it's imitating. Like it's in a wolf form, but it's much bigger than any normal wolf and moves much faster than any normal wolf. So there could be some sort of magical boost to their speed as well, on top of their size or whatever animal strength they have or speed they have.
Yeah, you don't want to meet one of those things.
No. I wouldn't want to meet a Wendigo either.
No, that's one tall giant.
Yeah.
I guess, sort of a demon in a
Mhm.
way. Yeah, those things are really tall. I don't know if they go by long strides or teleporting.
That they're another one of those jump scare creatures. I tend to lean more toward the teleport, because I don't ever hear of anyone saying a Wendigo walked up to my house or a Wendigo was chasing me. It's always there was a Wendigo standing in my doorway or a Wendigo popped up at the end of my bed.
Yeah, it's like you hear it's actually I remember at one point I heard the way to detect a Wendigo in your area is to hear the skull noises, like from the teeth kind of grinding.
Oh.
Teeth grinding, that was it. And if you ever hear that, you're in for some trouble. And yeah, it's definitely something to be scared of. A mass killer. Yeah.
Well, another cryptid that we're pretty familiar with is Mothman. And Mothman, of course, travels very fast by air. We've all heard the stories about, him keeping up with a car going 100 miles an hour in the air. Apparently fairly fast on the ground, too. I think Mothman has fairly powerful legs. Why it would choose to run instead of flying, I have no idea, but...
Yeah, with running, I think that the wings would push him back a bit.
You would think. But there are reports of Mothman running alongside a car, kind of similar to those accounts on Dogman, trying to open the door. Mothman was like running alongside and, glancing into the car, staring down the people in there.
Well, Batman.
Yeah. So, a very fast cryptid. And in terms of overall speed, probably the fastest one with natural speed of any of them that we've talked about so far. Because, there have been credible reports that Mothman has moved at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
But that's airspeed. And another cryptid that uses airspeed would be a thunderbird. Birds fly pretty fast.
I'd assume a thunderbird would go a similar speed to like an eagle, or obviously it's way bigger.
Yeah.
But, similar dynamic.
Yeah, unless we apply like Dogman logic to him or Bigfoot logic to him and say because he's bigger and has more powerful wings and more powerful muscles, is he able to move more air and push himself forward faster?
I could imagine just it gliding could be fast. It wouldn't even need to move its wings.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's why airplanes seem to be so much faster than birds.
Yeah, because birds oftentimes do glide to kind of rest their muscles, whereas an airplane is always pushing forward.
Yeah, and with more muscle that could kind of accommodate for the jet engines.
Yeah. And I guess that would explain why Mothman seems to move faster than birds, because, a moth doesn't glide. A moth constantly has to beat its wings to keep moving.
Yeah.
I've actually, for Mothman at least, I've never heard of them actually like looking like a moth necessarily. More so like a flying owl or something.
Yeah, or a sandhill crane, or trying to think what the other thing is they're often compared to. But it in the air they don't look like a moth, but it's the shape of their body and their eyes that make people compare it to a moth, I think.
Or like a bat.
That's it. Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking of, a bat.
Batman.
Yeah, yeah.
The former name.
How different the world would have been without Marvel or without DC Comics.
Yeah.
So the last group of cryptids would be the water cryptids with their water speed. They're all over the map on this one because, you know, you've got the kind of big lumbering lake cryptids like Loch Ness Monster or Champy that probably aren't all that fast.
Yeah.
Then you've got like the giant squid, which isn't actually a cryptid anymore because they've actually found it.
Yeah.
That sucker can move.
Then there was the eel pig.
Oh yeah, the eel pig.
That one was by far the weirdest one. But how fast can eels move?
Pretty fast.
Yeah, okay.
They move like snakes in the water, so I know a water snake moves pretty good. Eels are also those kind of jump scare creatures where they like to sit in a deep hole and then burst out to grab something.
Oh no.
So they definitely win on the quickness points as well.
I don't want to be near one of those.
Yeah, especially not the eel pig.
Yeah. I'll be jump scared by an ugly face first.
Yeah.
Electrocuted.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if the eel pig actually has the electric ability, but has the body of an eel and face of a pig, obviously.
Well, why wouldn't he then? I mean,
Yeah.
so let's just assume he's got the full package. So he's got the electricity, and he's probably got the pig stink, and he's probably
Yeah, cutting some slack.
yeah. I'm trying to think if there are any other major water cryptids that we've talked about that we're missing. Most of them are going to move the same. I mean, if it's a fish-based cryptid, it's going to move like a fish. If it's a dinosaur-based cryptid, it's going to move like a dinosaur.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple concept when it comes to water cryptids.
Yeah.
There are a lot of variations of Loch Ness monsters. I mean, there's the Basilosaurus, which is basically an older version of Loch Ness monster.
Mm-hmm. Now, you know, there's also, this is more along the lines of the giant squid, but there's a cryptid called a megalodon, which is a prehistoric shark that some people believe still exists today. And actually, there's a lot of evidence coming out that there might actually be a couple megalodons out there wandering around. Just huge, 40 to 100 foot sharks. And the story is that they can move really, really fast.
Oh no.
Like faster than great white sharks. So if they exist, they might be our fastest water cryptid. At least in terms of like full out speed, not quickness.
Yeah, it's more terrifying than the Loch Ness monster, I gotta admit.
Yeah.
Are those things usually aggressive?
They're aggressive, but they're aggressive toward things bigger than us. We almost wouldn't be worth their time. They go after like whales and other sharks and stuff. Or nuclear submarines, that kind of thing.
Oh, of course.
So that's our take on the speed of cryptids. I think in terms of ground speed, we're probably looking at Dogman being the fastest. In terms of air speed, probably Mothman.
Yeah.
Water speed, probably Megalodon. And magic speed, it's a tie. So, as always, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. And if you'd like to share your thoughts on the speed of cryptids, or if you've seen a cryptid and can tell us how fast you saw it going, we'd love to hear about it. So, thanks again.